Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred, and I'm excited today to lead you through something called natural breathing, which I did a little bit in the last video. It is from Ralph De La Rosa's book, Outshining Trauma. And I'm going to actually do several short videos where I lead you through practical exercises that Ralph includes in chapter 8 because I really want you to experience these essentially as portals into the conditions that are ripe for inner relating. It's like you are creating the stage or the soil, right, for the self to come in and meet the parts who are suffering and have that loving relationship. And so we're creating this presence, this calm, this space of stillness with which that naturally happens. There is a source, I would say, of unconditional love. In IFS, we call it the capital S self. Dick will often talk about the all cap self. I also call that capital L love, or some people will call it divine God, but it's unconditionally loving and has this very wide perspective. And we can kind of channel it to come in and relate to our parts when we create these conditions. And in order to create that condition of calm stillness, we have to first actually be safe. So we'll talk about that in a second when I lead you through the exercise. I just want to tell you a couple things that Ralph says about the exercise of natural breath before I lead you through it. He says it is a direct invitation into stillness. And I like how he says, whereas most meditation teachers will tell you to pay attention to the breath, I ask you to prioritize the spaces between breaths. And if any of you have done Wim Hof breathing, it's, you're breathing really, really quick, but then you hold your breath. In that space of the holding, there is a sense of expansiveness. It's really hard to explain unless you've experienced it. There's this deep calm and expansiveness, and we can experience that in every space between our breath. The space between our in-breath before we exhale, and the space after our exhale before we inhale again. When we become aware of those spaces, we're tapping into a deep stillness and expansiveness is the only way I can describe it, but I hope for you to experience it. And he says, if you have parts who fear it, because that might be true, we might have parts who kind of fear surrender, like they just want to be in control or kind of the unknown. And in that space, it can feel a little bit like a surrender. You might just let those parts know that this is just a tiny experiment to see what happens in those spaces so that they can gain trust in it, right? So just kind of propose it like that. And if it's terribly terrifying to them, they don't have to do it. Okay. Um, and last thing I'll say that Ralph says about it is he says, there is something special and mysterious in the spaces between breaths. There's a pocket of true stillness after the out-breath. We can also shift directly into self-energy in a rather effortless way. Okay, so this is really what these exercises are, is kind of like a portal, either a portal into self-energy or we're opening a portal for self-energy to come in to the system. It's always there. It's always there in us and around us, but it's like we're creating the condition, like I said, for it to be acknowledged by the parts. Okay, so I'm going to lead you through this exercise. I encourage you to find a comfortable position. For some of my parts that have a hard time, especially with breathing, it helps me to lay on my back on the bed or on the floor. For some reason, my parts that are real active in my mind and in my body relax a little bit when I do that. So you might try that. But for some people, they actually need to walk while they're doing this. Or you might be sitting up. There's no right or wrong. You can experiment with it. But the first thing I will always direct you to do for any exercise is to first look around you and make sure that you're safe in this moment. You're just kind of paying attention to what you see, what you hear, what you smell. And if there's anything that alerts you that you're not safe, maybe you need to close a door, maybe you need to change location, um, or maybe your body feels unsafe and you want to get a warm blanket or light a candle, get a scent that gives you a sense of safety. It's really important to create the condition of safety because our bodies and minds will not let us go into this portal if that's not present in this moment. It may not be present in other moments in your life, but in this moment, there needs to be safety. Okay, so support that in whatever way you need to. And then I invite you to just feel your body in this space. Our bodies really are heavy. They anchor us, they weigh us down a little bit, but we're just feeling how the earth supports us, how our body is in this space in this moment. And we're going to start with just a couple deep breaths. And so I invite you to just take a natural breath in your mouth or your nose. And you maybe breathe in even a little bit more than you would. You might feel your belly expanding, especially if you're on your back. And just hold it for a moment and then release it through pursed lips very slowly. And then breathe in again. Filling up, 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 and hold for a second. And then breathe out. And you can do that one more time if you want to. You don't have to. What we're doing with that is it's another signal to our body that we're safe, helps our bodies relax. And then we're just going to focus on our natural breath, not manipulating it, just noticing it. And for this, it helps me to close my eyes if you aren't already, or you can have a soft gaze, just to tune out other stimuli. And as you begin noticing your breath, you might notice how your body moves just subtly with your breath. And this awareness of our breath is so interesting because later we'll begin noticing more and more when our parts are holding our breath, or it's shallow or deeper. So we're just noticing the in and out breath. We're noticing how the animal of our bodies knows how to breathe. And again, you don't need to manipulate it at all. You're just noticing it. And I know for me, it feels very life-giving, noticing my breath. But for some people, parts can have fear around putting so much attention and focus on the breath. So if you do have parts like that, just let them know that you're here with them and that you're just doing an experiment and that you will continue to breathe. There's no right or wrong. And now, as you're noticing just the rise and fall, maybe the air going in is cool, coming out is warm, whatever you notice. This air is life-giving, this oxygen goes to all the cells of your body. Sometimes I'll just say thank you, my in and out breath. And as you observe it, it may begin to slow down. And deepen. And then I invite you to begin to notice, even if it's small, the spaces between your breath. When you breathe in, maybe there's a little space at the top before you exhale. And then as you exhale, just wait in that space before your body just naturally inhales again. This can take some practice to notice the spaces between. And that's okay. But as you just keep breathing and you begin focusing less on the inhale and the exhale and more on the spaces, you may notice just a sense of peace, calm, expansive stillness in those spaces. Again, if you have parts that are really resistant to this, it's okay. You just do it a few times. I always tell people, do it as long as your system will allow, and then increase if and when they want to, when it feels good to them. And again, you might try it laying on your back or in other positions, bowing, walking. And eventually, if your system trusts this, they'll begin to crave it. Begin to crave that very small portal of space between breaths where that calm, expansive stillness lies. And then you can do it as short or as long as you like. And when you're ready, you can come back out into this space. And I should have asked you at the beginning, I could have, kind of to rate your activation or anxiety level on a scale of 1 to 10, and then rate it again at the end. And you can try that if you do this exercise again, um, to see what happens kind of to your nervous system and your parts if they're able to rest in that small space. So let me know about your experience. There are as many different experiences as there are people. And if there were parts that blocked the way, or if you were able to feel that space between breaths, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you have watched to this point just because it's fun, put an emoji of like the wind or breath or something that represents breath in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next exercise.